Hi everybody! So, I passed. I have now finished my Q&A 180s, and that means I passed this class. And as I mentioned in my last video, this was a big deal because this basically determines whether I needed to retake the class or not. And having just one test left, it's like I'm repaying like $950 for tuition to read my Word documents again. If I don't get this last test in this last week. So coming into this week, this is the end of week 15, coming into this week, I have 10 days left to pass the test. I was really stressed, and I came into this week being like, I have to do anything and everything I can to finish. And honestly, I still can't really believe I did it. The requirement was to pass twice, so I passed it at 96, and then the next day I passed again at 97. So, what happened? I am currently at a little bit over 600 days into my steno journey from the day I first started learning the key layout. And this is the day I started going to school, but I just started teaching myself online with Plover and all that. And now I can officially write at 180 already. I'll admit, I think it does seem like I'm on the fast side, and I guess I hope I'm on the fast side because I am aiming for 2 years completion time since the start of school, not the start of that timer. But my teachers are like, yo, I've never seen a student this fast, or whatever. I'm like, okay. It's nice to hear that sort of praise, but it's not what I'm looking for, I need help getting to the end. And I really feel like myself, when I first started this journey, I was like, why does no one know how long speedbuilding take? And why do so many people take different lengths of time? And how do I know what I'll be able to do? What factors can you base that on? How do you know you can get there? And now that I'm here and I passed 180, I'd be the person I'm asking, right? You're like, hey, what did you do? How did you get to 180? You're 16 months into school. What did you do? And the answer from me now to myself back then is, I don't freaking know. The truth is, I still don't feel like I know what I'm doing yet, and I still don't feel like I've got everything figured out. And there's things I don't understand yet, and I'm not finding the answers to, and yet I'm here. And now that I'm at this point, there are a couple of things I see. The first is that pretty much for the most parts, all levels of speed building are kind of the same. And this is reflected in how they teach speed building to you. They don't really say, oh, okay, this is what you're gonna need to do to get to 180. Or this is the amount of briefs you're gonna have to learn to pass the next level. Or like, if you don't have this much studying done on this, then you're not gonna be able to get to this level. So you better do that studying first, and then that will help you get to this level. There's really none of that. It's really, every level is just the same as the last level, just faster. So the idea that whatever it took you to get to 120 is the same method that you would use to get yourself to 180. And you're just really doing the same thing over and over, but faster. And that's really how they teach it. And I would have never guessed that. Each level is a speed you cannot write yet. And it's just like hazing yourself into learning. One thing I see, at least for myself and my practice, is that I personally, and this may not be true for everyone, I personally don't have any trouble with my hands. I don't have any trouble with my fingers. I don't have any trouble with the outlines. It's all mental for me. So it's like I'm doing a brain training. I feel like the extent of the hand training, I feel like I am there with the hand training. Like all the time I've put in, my hands are trained. It's really a matter left of me being able to process this in my brain fast enough. And yeah, like I said, I don't feel like I've got it figured out yet. I still don't understand how to fix my biggest problems. As I mentioned before, I think in another video, I really have almost no trouble with misstrokes or wrong strokes or slop. And when I have errors, they almost entirely come from drops. So words that I either did not hear or did not write down fast enough, and there's nothing there that I can use to edit or guess what it should have been. In my mind, the ideal speed test that you could take is you have some stroke written down for every word, and maybe all the strokes aren't right, but you can guess what it was supposed to be from the wrong stroke. And that's what people mean when they say get something down for everything. What happens to my test is everything I get down is like nearly perfect. I almost don't have to edit it because it's all like correct already, but there's big gaps of like sentences I didn't hear, or I fell behind and I jumped forward across all these words and I just didn't write them down. And there's no way when you're in that editing phase of the test to guess what the words were that you missed. And the advice I've been met with that, people say, oh, you should trail. And some people say, oh, you shouldn't trail. And they're just kind of like, just trail. And I'm like, if I could, I would. And I wish I knew how to target that more specifically. And some people said, oh, do that at slower speeds, do it at higher speeds, and then that will teach you how to trail. I don't really know. I just know I panic every time I get too far behind and I just jump forward. And then the other one, of course, where they say, oh, get something down for everything. I'm trying to get something down for everything, and it's just not happening. So like, unless you explain a specific method on how to get something down for everything, I'm not getting something down for everything. Like, I can't do it just by willing myself to. And as I mentioned, in the last few weeks, I was really honed in on finishing these last tests. So I haven't gotten enough time to test everything out yet. But in the comments, please hold off on advice for now, and I will do some more testing myself, and I'll get back to you with my progress. I'm not looking for advice at this time. I also feel like I have not finished fixing my theory yet. There's always things I'm changing in my dictionary, and I'm changing the ways I write certain words, and it doesn't feel like I've solidified what I'm doing yet. I'm always changing it still, which makes me feel like I'm still like a work in progress. It doesn't feel like I'm at a place where I'm like happy and solid with the way I type everything, and I'm like, let's take this all the way to 225 and just speed. Like, I don't need to change this anymore. I'm changing stuff all the time still, and I'm at this speed. So I don't really know when or where that stops, or like, should I like get to a point? And if I haven't mentioned this before, you know, changing your dictionary, changing your methods for the way you write things, or adding additional theory rules, it's a lot of mental effort and takes a lot of time to implement and kind of figure out. Now, what I would have wanted to know is, what were you doing when you passed your test? How did you pass your test? What exactly were you doing? And I'll explain that in a minute. But before I get to that, before the rest of you get bored of my video, I'm going to explain one other quick little mindset that I have that I've adapted over the past few months, and I think it would help students out there. So just wanted to share this. I've come to view passing tests as really your peak performance. So sometimes you pass a test and you just get imposter syndrome. You're like, did I really pass that? Like, I could not do that again. If I took another test right now, it would be another fail. We would be back in the 80s. I could not replicate my success. Does this really count as success? Can I really say I can type at that speed? And the answer is you can. You can say you type at that speed because you did. You did it for 5 minutes, you did it at 180. But what if the test was kind of easy, like the words weren't that hard, and the briefs were really easy, and there weren't any like really complicated words in there? What if I get hit with some words that were like really difficult and everything? I know I would fail that test. You did it. It counts. Those are words. I don't care that they're easy. You did it. You typed that many words for 5 minutes at that speed with over 95% accuracy. It's a pass. It's a pass. And for that imposter syndrome, I would say you need to look at it in the grand scheme of your end goal. And for any steno student, the end goal is getting to the 225, or like 225 QA, 200 jury charge, 180 lit, whatever. All those are your final goals, and that's what really matters in the end. And to be honest, like, celebrate every test you got, but these tests do not matter. 160 doesn't matter, 140 doesn't matter, 120 doesn't matter. These are checkpoints on the way up, and that just shows that you're progressing. And at the time you pass your test, yes, when you pass that test, it's your peak performance. When I passed my test this week, I went from doing 90s, and like 90, 90, 90, 89, 89, 91, 90, and then suddenly it went boom, 96. Like, how did I jump that far in one go? And then I went back to trying more, and I'm back at the 90s again. And it's like, that is my peak performance. But that doesn't mean I didn't do it. I did do it. And I think just acknowledging that you did do it, and that's okay if you can't do it more right now, this is just your sign to move on to the next level and challenge yourself for the next test. And that's what it really means for every test under those final exit speeds. Now, when it gets to the exit speeds, yeah, I would want to be confident. I would want to be passing those tests and being like, yeah, I can hit that 95% every time. And I would love to feel like that about my skill for that final level. But for these lower tests, just remember, this is really your peak performance. It's your one-off. It's you strained to pass this test. You did your best, you focused your hardest, and you're not going to get that every time at your current state. But it's time to move on and try the next thing. And that's really what passing a test means. And so don't listen to those people who are like, oh, but you shouldn't, feel good about yourself if you only passed a 95. Like, you really should pass a 98. When I went to school, we had to pass a 99. Just ignore them. Just ignore them. Just keep in mind your final goal of truly being excellent at the top final speed. And whatever you do under that really doesn't matter. Pass at 95. I don't care. I've passed every test so far at like 95. So just keep going. Okay, what was I doing exactly at the time that I passed my test? So, and this is just for data because I would have wanted to know the details, and I don't think people like kind of explain the details. They're just like, I passed, and I'm like, what finally got you across the line? And people don't know. They're like, oh, I just kept practicing. I also don't know, but I'm just gonna say what I did in case you want to know. So last week, which was week 14, I finally got back to kind of a whole solid week of practice, just getting all the way to the full 15 hours and extra and whatever. I also got back to drills, which I have not been doing, and I really miss them, and I really think they help me. And I really think this is a big part of me improving throughout my whole journey, is doing those drills and making those lists, which I explained in my theory tips video. So I got those back in my routine. Up until last week, I was still practicing kind of just at 180. I was doing 180 exercises, and I would score like 80 while I was practicing, maybe somewhere between high 70s to like 80s, maybe high 80s. And then I would take tests, and luckily I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting high 80s on my test, and I got I think I got 92 towards the end of last week. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm close. I have to make this. Like, I got 92. If I don't pass this class, it would be, oh my gosh. So I was already getting the 90 average at the end of last week. And I really think this shows that I'm pretty much there. I can do this. But I was really only practicing 180s, and they were like really hard, right? I'm not anywhere close to like the 95 that they ask us to practice at or whatever. I'm like, I need to get better at these before I even attempt 200s. 200 is going to be a mess. So I was like trying to practice 180s to help me with passing the test. Coming into this week, I'm feeling desperate. And I know one of the biggest pieces of advice that really resonates with me that I've heard is just practicing faster. Faster than your test speed. And this does seem to have a good degree of success in challenging you and pushing you and getting you forward. It just felt like it would not help me because I was already struggling to even complete 180 practice at a good level. So on Monday, what I was doing, I was also doing 180s. I did a bunch of exercises, and I tried to do them like maybe only once or twice. So usually when I practice something maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, and I'll just practice the exercise over and over and try to improve and get a better score. This time I'm just like, I'm switching the exercise every like 2 takes. So I can try to see like what's my best performance on a new one. I still don't think I'm getting my best performance out of myself when I do that because I don't know, I don't have the same focus or stakes as a test, so I'm not performing my best. And these are all like mid 80s kind of performance. I think low 80s kind of performance when I don't do it more than once or twice, and some in the 70s. And on Tuesday, and I was looking forward to this with a huge amount of dread, my period hit and I was like, today is gonna be such a hard day, but I have to keep firing as hard as I can because this is it. This is the last week. So what I decided to do, on Monday night, I finished by, I think, taking 3 tests, and I think I did like 90, 80, and 90 approximately for the scores. The 80 was the one for my school. So my school has these tests in the school folder. We get preview words for them, but I just generally feel like they're a little harder, like some syllable density is harder. So I actually took the other tests from the bank from RTC, and I don't know, I'm vibing with them. In the section I'm in, a lot of them are about like a car accident / shooting, and it's just kind of like eyewitness questions. So it doesn't feel as hard. I don't really know why. Maybe it's just the style of speaking. The other reason I hate my school tests is because the audio quality is everywhere. Like sometimes the audio quality gets in the way of me actually doing well on a test, which is so annoying. I feel like that should not be a factor, like whether my hearing is good. Like the test should be good to listen to. So in that sense, the RTC tests are all clear, so I prefer that. And also, I feel like they're more steady. They sound slower, but they have that many words in them. They're legitly that many words, even though they sound slower. And they don't like go everywhere. I took one of the tests from my school and it was so very clearly super fast, then it slowed, and then it went fast again. It's just like, I don't need that in my life. And even if it wasn't truly their speaking speed, it absolutely was that for like the stroke speed. And I'm like struggling, and then I'm like, this is too slow, and then it's going crazy again. I don't need that. Like, I just need a steady test. So anyways, I've been preferring the RTC tests, but I took 3 on Monday, 90, 80, 90. I was like, okay, we're still pretty close, but it's not happening yet. I need to do something significant before I'm able to pass. So on Tuesday, I spent my time purely on drills and a little bit of dictation. And I also did this whole thing where I went through a list of some of the most common words and I shortened them, because this was the advice I had gotten from someone at the conference. And she was like, you know, I don't believe that you need to learn more briefs. I believe you need to master your common words and make sure they're all one strokes. I was like, that's a great idea. And I got distracted. Honestly, I shouldn't have done this week. I'm going to practice it more now that I'm finished and going forward. But this was a distraction from finishing my tests. Like, this was not necessary. But I went through and I changing some of my common words that were 2 strokes into 1 strokes. And that, like I said, that took me like solid 3-4 hours to go through. And I didn't need that. But that's how I spent my Tuesday. And I didn't take any tests on Tuesday. I was like, you know, nothing has changed. I'm not going to pass today. On Wednesday, what I did was, you know what? We're going to go practice at 200. And we're going to see if this helps. Because I need to do something. I need to do something that's going to get me over the line. And I can't honestly say that this helped or whatever. I'm just telling you what I did. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I can't say that it helped. I can't feel that it helped. But I did practice at 200 instead of 180. And I was like scoring 60. Like abysmal. Like you didn't type anything. And I just did that to myself for hours. Like, you're doing 60, you're doing 65, maybe 70, and that's how practicing at 200 went for me. And then I went back down to 180. And what I did was I repeated the exercises that I did on Monday, did them again, maybe one more time, and seeing if on the first try I can beat my score, to see if anything's changed, to see if I've improved. And when I did that, basically no results. Like, one of them, I improved by 4%. One of them, I got the same exact 0% change. One of them, I decreased by 6%. Like, there's no tangible result for me repeating the exercises that I did 2 days ago. The other reason people say to practice faster than your target speed is that the target speed then sounds slow. And to be honest, it doesn't. It sounds the same. It sounds really hard, and I can't tell that it feels slow. It just feels fast still. And the only way you can tell is in the score. Like, the 200s were scoring in the 60s and 70s, and the 180s were scoring in the 70s and 80s. And that's for practice. And then I took a test. And out of nowhere, I get the 96. I'm like, I was shocked. The highest scoring test I had done so far was, I think, the 92. And I think that had something around like 80 something errors, 88 or something. And this 96 test I passed had like 33 errors. How do I jump from 80 something errors to 30 something errors out of nowhere? Like, I have no idea what happened. You know, you think of the progression. Like, oh, I shaved off another 10 errors. Oh, I shaved another 10 errors. That would be what I'd love to see. No, it just came out of nowhere. Like, from 80 errors to 30 errors. Okay. And so at that point, I was so relieved, because I knew if I had gotten the first one, it was physically possible for me to pass another one. And I had still, I think, 7 more days at that point to do it. So I was like, phew, it was just a huge relief. So I just kept practicing. I think the same day I took one more test. It was a 90 again, about 90%. And then the next day I did the same thing. I think I did a 200 where I was just dropping, you know, half the whole dictation. And then I did practice at 180 where also not that great. And on Thursday, I decided I was just gonna go in and try and get it. So what I did was I took a bunch of tests in a row. I think I took a 5-minute from the RTC bank. I think it was around a 90. And then for whatever reason, I decided to do the 2-minute tests. My school has them in our school bank. And I did the 2-minute tests. One was like an 89, one was like a 95. So I was like, oh, I hit the 95, okay. And there's a lot of variance in that just because it's the 2-minute. But again, they don't count for anything, they don't do anything. So I don't really know why I did them. Then I went to like the 5-minute test from our school. Again, I find those harder. I think I didn't score very well on that. And then I went back to the RTC bank for one last try. And that was the test. I passed. I was like, I did it. I really couldn't believe it because like I had foreseen this being a really, really hard week. And to finish on Thursday, I was like, and just the amount of freedom I felt the next day and like, whew. I already forgot the 96 test, but what I remember from taking the 97 test, I remember doing it. And as I explained, all my errors come from jobs. I don't get any errors that really do anything to my score from typing errors. So I'm going through it and I can feel that it's been a while. We're maybe halfway into the test and I'm like, I'm getting really down. I've barely dropped anything yet. This could be it. And just keep going. I'm feeling great about how little I'm dropping. I do remember zoning out and thinking about something else during the middle of the test. I don't really know what I was thinking about or why, but just know that it happens. Like you're writing and like to pass a test doesn't mean you have to be like 100% on the test the whole time. Like sometimes your hands do the thing and that's great. I don't really know what I was thinking about. I don't know why I was zoning out, but don't do that, I guess. And once I got to the end of the test, I already knew I had passed. I knew that was it because I had not dropped enough to have the same score as I always did. And I was like, this has to be it. I got it. And when I finished editing and turning it in, it was just amazing. I had basically only 3 spots where I dropped compared to a typical test where I will drop like 7-10 times for like anywhere between like 3 to 10 words each. That's where everything comes from for me. And then I think I only had like 4 single word errors, which I don't count. Like if you get 4 single word errors like that, I don't care. It's all in the drops for me. So I only dropped 3 times and I got 97 and I think it was 22 errors or something like that. I could not believe it. So I'm now a 2-time QA 180 passer. I'm really proud of that. And I know I couldn't do it again. If you asked me to do it right now, I would not score a 95. But it was my peak performance and I did it. So yay. So what's next? First I'm going to take a break and I'm going to get a lot of admin that I've been ignoring done. Then I'm going to get right back to it. I really want to still improve by a lot. There are a lot of things that I want to work on and I am going to be able to work on them this summer by freeing myself from my program. So as I mentioned in the last speed building video, I am not going to take speed building at my school this summer because there's no way I'm passing. There's like double the amount of tests that you need to pass compared to the speed building 180 level because for the exit speeds, I think you have to pass each one like 3 times. So there's no way I'm going to finish all that when the semester is shorter. So I'm not going to take it. I don't need to pay for no teaching. I don't need to pay for just Word documents. I'm just not going to register, but I'm going to come back and register in the fall and hopefully my goal is to be ready to pass all the tests in the fall. So hopefully by working hard in the summer and getting ahead, by the time I start the fall semester, I can start off by just busting through a bunch of tests and then having just a couple left to work on. That's what I'm hoping for. We'll see how far I can get working on stuff in the summer. Now, in addition to passing tests that I need to pass for school and for the RPR, I want to work on some other things such as that I feel like are more real life, such as for voice. I feel like that happens in real life. And just like speaker identification, it just like tests are not like real life, if you know what I mean. So I want to be able to work on things that would help me more like for real. I'm also hoping to keep fixing up my theory and get everything to a point where I feel like, I don't feel like stuff is still wrong, that I'm not finished sorting everything out. So I'm hoping to just spend some time on theory development in the summer and just get to that point. Just because I'm this far into speed building and I don't feel like I've got everything nailed down yet. So I really feel like I need to do that. I also made a decision about what I'm going to do for summer. So I am going to take one class at Tri-C. I'm going to take the captioning class. This is not required for the degree. So technically I don't have to take it. And if it turns out to be lame, I'll just cancel it. I'll just drop it after it starts. But I will start that class at least, and I hope it's interesting because I am interested in the topic. I'm interested in captioning technology as a hobby, and you know, maybe I'll do that as a job. Who knows where everything will take me, but definitely interested in the topic. Have no idea what the class is like, so stay tuned. And I did hear that I think I will be able to still pay for a real-time coach, so I'll be able to keep practicing in the summer on my own, basically the same way I've been teaching myself the whole semester. So nothing will change in terms of that. Like, I'll still be able to go on the website and practice, whatever. But in addition to that, I'm looking to go to Career Love for the summer. And I emailed them and be like, would you take a student that's only going to be there for 4 months because I'm going to go back to my school? And they were like, sure. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's great. And you know, they're an affordable program with a great reputation. And I'm really hoping to see if they have some different teaching methods, maybe some different practice methods, and something that will really help me and shake things up for me and kind of pinpoint my problems from an outside perspective, not just from myself. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm going to do that for the summer. I also recently received news that I was selected for the scholarship to go to the NCRA convention. I believe that's in July. And that application, you had to be at 160 to even apply for that, which is kind of wild. Like, I wish they would open it up to like 140s and 120s, like. But I was able to apply to that because I had 160. And then there's a separate scholarship for travel, so you can get some money towards your travel costs and expenses. And that application is at 180. And I'm like, girl, you're not going to get anyone to apply for your scholarship, but luckily I can now because I passed my 180s, so I'm planning to apply for that. Hopefully it goes well. And those are my plans for the summer so far. As you can tell by this video, I'm just gonna assume that it is weeks from the time I film this, just because I'm so backed up on editing right now. There's another venture in my life, a little part-time gig that I've got going on that is taking away my time that I would be spending in editing, and it's really just kind of making my YouTube by the wayside, which really sucks because, as always, I have tons of ideas and there's a lot of videos I want to make, and I don't know what my summer will look like in terms of being able to get more of those videos out. I really would love to, but at the same time, every day I sit down and prioritize my practice, and that's really important to me because I feel like the steps I take every day, the small ones that don't feel like anything, are the ones gonna get me to my goal. So that is important to me, and I'm sorry about the YouTube, and I feel guilty about it every day to myself. But recently I've just been hearing a lot of good feedback that my videos are helping people, and I really appreciate that because that is what I do this for. I would have wanted the help when I was in the position of just starting school, and to hear that that's helping people like the past me, that's really my goal in putting the work into creating these. So, all right, I'll see you next time.